what we're trying to create is the most amazing experience.
The London Marathon is the most popular race on the planet. They had over 1.3 million applications.
Focus on what you're brilliant at. Focus on your unique selling point.
We always talk about really 5 core numbers: traffic, conversion rate, average order value, retention, and virality.
Make sure you understand the customer is king. They will vote with their feet and their wallets, and they will turn up or not turn up. A new value that we're trying to instill in London Marathon events is curiosity. I've never had an original idea in my life. All I've ever done is taken other people's ideas and gone, oh, that's quite nice. What if we do this? What if we do that? How do we adapt it? To be able to bring that joy to people, to be able to bring that sense of achievement, to be able to bring those life-changing moments. Why on earth is that not going to make you happy?
Hugh, it is a huge privilege to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Sam. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a new series we're doing at Let's Do This, where we're really trying to get under the skin of what drives growth amongst the greatest races across the world. And who better to start with today than Hugh Brasher, the CEO and long-term race director of the London Marathon. The London Marathon, as probably everyone will know, is the most popular race on the planet. They had over 1.15 million applications for their race this year. It's the strongest marathon brand that exists across the world. That was announced in a study in 2025 last year. And it's also the single biggest one-day charity fundraiser that happens every year anywhere on the planet. Hugh, it is a huge privilege to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Sam. Great to be here.
So, Hugh, obviously the history that you've had before running the London Marathon, from sweatshop and building that into one of the leading running retailers in the UK, selling that through to Mike Ashley, obviously going further back then to really running being in your blood, like from your dad, Chris, really obviously timing the 4-minute mile and really being a part of that whole movement, to Shirley, your mum, like winning the French Open. What is your excuse and reason for not being faster at running?
Oh, God. My mother always said it missed a generation, and she's probably right. So I'm hoping that one of my daughters, possibly the younger one, is the one that it moves on to. I actually think she said it skipped 2 generations, so it might be their kids that do it. So, yeah, I always used to say that I would have been, as a yearling, if you follow horses, I would have been sold for an awful lot of money, but I'd have ended up in the selling race at Bangor, and I would now be glue as a horse, basically, an ex-horse. So yeah, sadly, I'm not very good. It's as simple as that.
Hugh Brasher, Finder's Lasagna, who, for anyone who remembers that one, but I'll be buying stem cells in your children, I'm sure, at one point. My wife describes you, and I think the best way that I've come across, which is that you're a 6-year-old in a 40-year-old's body who happened to have been born 60 years ago. You have such a thirst for our sport, for life, for business. Where does that love of running, love of what we do, where does that come from?
Oh, I just think life is amazing. I think that, I was born to a huge privilege. I mean, I have to say that. My parents, they worked enormously hard. My father was actually a journalist and an entrepreneur. He spent, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 hours working. My mum was a journalist as well. She was a tennis coach. She coached some of the top tennis players in the world. She coached Jeremy Bates, who won Wimbledon mixed doubles when he was 14. I used to play tennis against Jeremy. I mean, they absolutely worked so hard. And I think that rubs off on you. I think that you see something and you believe that is normal. And so many people say, well, what was it like having famous parents? It was like, well, they're just your mum and your dad. I mean, they're not famous parents at all. They're just your mum and your dad. So, coming to the house, it might be, Brendan Foster might come, various different celebrities, but they were just people that were turning up in the garden and that just happened to be there. So I think that just gave me a understanding that everyone is normal. Everyone has insecurities. We're all just trying to do the best that we can be. But what a privilege to be alive and to be healthy. I think health is the biggest gift that anyone has. And, just do what the most you can. And if you're going to leave a mark, then leave a positive one. and have fun with life. I mean, it's just an amazing privilege.
Before we come on to the sort of more tactical side of growing an event, you speak about your team. I think you have one of, if not the greatest teams in the industry, and would love to sort of talk about one specific person in Jeanette who runs finance and operations at London Marathon. I think is completely exceptional in every way. I know it's been a really deliberate part of your work over the last few years, and something you've spoken about pretty openly being something that you've really wanted to invest more time in, is like building out that senior team. London's grown so much. LME's obviously growing internationally, like becoming something completely unique and different to what it's ever really been before. How tactically have you gone about thinking about getting those right people in the bus? Like, I love Good to Great sort of strategy book on really starting with those right people in the bus. Like, how have you thought about that? And perhaps with the specific example of Jeanette, like, how have you really found someone of that caliber, enabled them to scale into their full potential, and led to that team environment where you can do more than you ever could have done on your own?
Well, look, firstly, she is absolutely phenomenal. So, you know, she is the group CFO and she's the COO of London Marathon Events. And she's been with us just over 2 years, and the difference she's making is enormous. I always remember when I was about 21, and at that stage, I think at Sweatshop we had one store, and my dad at that stage was the distributor for Reebok shoes. Originally, he had been the distributor for New Balance shoes, and then this is going back a long time. But the pound to dollar was £1 to $102. Yeah. My dad was still paying for the New Balance shoes in dollars, and he was losing money on practically every pair he sold. And anyway, he transitioned to Reebok. The company had a turnover at that stage of £750,000, and 5 years later, it was a £90 million turnover. And I always remember he had this senior guy. And a really good friend of mine was working for him. And I was just I just couldn't, and as far as I was concerned, this senior guy was absolutely useless. But he had these 4 brilliant people around him. And it took me ages to realize, oh my God, he is brilliant. Yeah. He has surrounded himself with brilliant people. And I just think that, there's so many insecurities that we all have in life. It's like, is someone going to take our job? Is someone going to...
find us in some way attractive?
No, clearly not in my case. Clearly not. But they just have these insecurities. And actually, to understand your strength, to understand your weakness, to lean into your strength, to try and adapt your weakness, to bring people around you who are going to be better than you, who are going to help you to lift. That's the most incredible thing to do, and to always keep learning. We live in a world that is changing more than anything else. And you can either go, oh my God, how frightening that is, or you can go, oh my God, how exciting is it? What can I learn? What is going to happen in the future? And, people keep asking what's going to happen. And I've got all sorts of different theories. I don't know. Does it matter? I don't know. No, it doesn't. But as long as I'm agile and adapt, and the team are agile and adapt, then that's what you've got to do. But yeah, look, the team is incredible. There are now about 160 staff at London Marathon Events. When I started, there were about 22. We are committed to bringing in values to the organisation. It was one of the first things I did, which I believe are so important in any organisation. What is it that you stand for? And I know your wife, you know mine, and my wife and I were talking about this last night. We go on date nights once a month. It's a really important part of my life and our life together. But it was just, we were actually talking about what would it have been like if we'd been with previous partners. So which might be an odd conversation.
She would be far happier, I'm sure.
She probably would be. You're absolutely right. And it came back to how our values are so similar. And whatever might be going on in life, it comes back to those really key points. And that's what you want to do with your team. That's what you want to do with your staff, is if everyone is understanding. They're not going to do necessarily exactly what you want, what you think, but if they've done it thinking about the values with the right values, acting with the right values, that team can act as one and be as one. And that is, you will go far far further. I love that Eliud Kipchoge, one of his phrases, which is 100% of him is only 1% of the team.
Yeah.
And it's such a great phrase. And look, we have an amazing team. We keep expanding it. We have to keep trying to be better ourselves and keep learning. And again, that's a great thing about life. I love learning.
Yeah, and I wanted to go deeper on that point around learning, agile, adaptability, innovation. I think it's so easy in our industry right now. Running's obviously on such a boom. Everything's kind of going to the right. We speak to organisers all the time who are kind of, there's probably ways that we can get better and ways that we can improve, but life's pretty good, right? Like our numbers are up, like our races are selling out that have never done before, we're more oversubscribed than ever. I think there's also a very natural part of our industry where most organisers have their main event once a year, and therefore their clock speed or their speed of iteration is often annual. Whereas, I don't know, let's do this as a tech company, we might ship 45 times a day, and so like your clock speed is that much faster. I think you're definitely the most innovative organiser in running. The way that we've seen you adapt and adopt AI is far ahead of other people. How do you instill in the team and the culture this, I don't love this phrase, but the kind of growth mindset as far as like the fact that you're going to keep taking swings, the fact that you're sort of going to, not quite, but bet the house to touch more lives and to involve more. We've just been working together on the European Classics, which I'm really excited to have launched a couple of weeks ago. And I know there's a greater number of things in the pipeline. How do you, when you have such a strong base, obviously most popular race in the world, one of, if not the most profitable organizations in the world, as far as that money then goes to the foundation, how do you keep driving that day-to-day urgency of encouraging innovation, accepting that not everything's going to work out, and not just end up in this more like hermit, like, let's not mess with anything because everything's kind of working? How do you instill that in the team, and how do you keep taking those swings?
So I think one is, what I'm doing is I'm leading an organization, but I am just there to hand it over to the next person. And I'm very proud of what my father and John Disley did in founding the London Marathon, and the fact that all the profit goes to the foundation, and it becomes a virtuous circle of we inspire people, that money then goes to the foundation, who then inspire other people. So if you take Junior Park Run, and Park Run is the most amazing sort of ecosphere of goodness and community. And we've given 1.3 million to Junior Park Run to expand it, and I think that this brand, the London Marathon, it was one of the biggest reasons I came to be in the job I am. But I thought that the brand was not liked. I thought that it wasn't doing as good for the industry as it could do. I thought that it had huge potential. Actually, the biggest reason not to do it is because of my surname. Is I'd been in an industry in running, and I'd taken one shop to 43 shops. People knew me, they knew I'd done it myself. Suddenly I'm going into an organization, oh my God, he's a silver spoon in his mouth. He's just been given that because of his father. So that was the reason not to do it, but I just saw this potential. So I think that, and my job is to give that brand over to the next person in a better place, fit for the next 40 years, and to carry on inspiring activity. And I think that, the world that we're living in, talk about AI, and, I think we're going to go through a really interesting journey of this massive adaptation, people taking on AI and then making some huge changes, and maybe what that does to society is actually not good. But what we do to society is good, because we get people to connect together in real life. And it is that connection, that is why it is the single biggest reason that I believe that running is so popular at the moment. And it's, the demographics in terms of pretty well 50-50 male, female. In fact, in the younger age group, more women. The fact that 1/3 of the UK applicants to the London Marathon last year were under the age of 30, and in that the population in that demographic, something like 60% were women. But I think that what we have is a community that welcomes everybody. There are so many different tribes in running, and those tribes work together. They're not working against each other. It's not like football where, Tottenham hate Arsenal or QPR hate Chelsea, or, all these different sort of tribes of hate. Actually, what you've got in running is tribes of support. The fact that someone is going to run 26.2 miles, my God, that's difficult. The fact that someone has decided to go out the door when it's raining or when it's snowy and it's dark and it's 7 o'clock at night and there's all the reasons not to go, and the fact that you've done it and someone will support you, that's what is incredible. And we don't get that support in many other things. And that's that community feel, that feeling of goodness. That's why I think our industry genuinely is an industry for the future. And as far as, what do I try and instill? And going back to values, one of the values that, a new value that we're trying to instill in the marathon events is curiosity. And I think that without curiosity, it's about asking questions. It's about going out and seeing other people's races. And I say frequently, I've never had an original idea in my life. All I've ever done is taken other people's ideas and gone, oh, that's quite nice. What if we do this? What if we do that? How do we adapt it? There are so many, whether it's gigs, whether it's, just Glastonbury, if you take that as an experience. And also I love turning things on their head. It's like, mass participation. Well, what can you do? We want to give each individual person their own experience in a mass participation world. If that's your challenge, oh my God, how do you do that? Well, technology can help you to do that. So there are lots of things that we can do, that we can lean into. That's where the opportunity is genuinely exciting. And it's this connection, this real life connection of people that we bring, and that is only, in my opinion, going to be needed more and more in the future than ever.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's something that we speak about as a team a ton. One of the fears I have is that the rate at which the technology companies can change is very, very fast. Like, our company has completely changed beyond all recognition from 18 months ago. But the rate at which organizations and people who don't have all day, every day to be playing around with AI can change is a huge amount slower. I can go and sit next to a software engineer somewhere at London Marathon is going to find that more challenging and more difficult. To get down to a more tactical level, there's so much busy work to do. There's so much to be in the middle of. How do you drive and encourage the teams to make changes, to innovate on a day-to-day basis when they're going to already be at max capacity on the amount of work which is there to get done?
So I think we do have a proper business plan, and we adapt it in theory every 5 years. In reality, it's about every 3 years, and then in reality, it's every year. So that business plan, we get together as a group, and we actually try and imagine the world that we want to exist in 5 years. And we don't imagine the world that we think we can. We don't imagine it in the boundaries of possibility. We imagine it in the boundaries of our imagination and almost the impossibility. And if you then start to do that as a group, and you start to go, what would look amazing? Now, what would look amazing in this company? Okay, great, let's just put that out there. And okay, let's not say whether it's possible or not. And then you start to socialize it, you write it down, and you go, okay, if that's what would be amazing in 5 years, are we all agreeing that's what would be amazing? Right. How now as a group, we've decided what's amazing in 5 years' time. We know where we are now. What are the steps that are going to take us from now to amazing? And let's write those steps down. And those steps will then invariably change, but you've got a target, and that target is because you've got them in, let's say, the steps for year 1, year 2. So you work on the steps for year 1, and the steps for year 1, you've got again a team of people, and they've each got their own objectives that lead to that one. And by putting all these different people working together, and they're genuinely working together, and what they can achieve is an incredible output. And I think that's been one of the big successes of London Marathon events. It was putting that, it's called a VIMOSA, Vision, Mission, Objectives, Strategies, Actions. We've had one since 2013. I sort of took over as race director in 2012. That was one of the first things that I put in. And we're now on iteration, I think, number 5. And each time it's like, we've pretty well, they've been 5 years and we've never gone past year 3 because we've smashed it out the park. And that's because everyone's understood it, everyone's working towards it. And you write it down, we traffic light it every 3 or 4 months. That's effectively why we've achieved what we have. And then I think it's, I think you have to lean into new things. So, you appeared on the scene, and I still always remember that there's interesting characters in this industry, but no one else has rung me up at 11:30 at night. And as you said, I'm working, and absolutely I'm working, and there I am at home. I just moved into my my new house that wasn't fully built, and phone goes, and it's you, and we're trying to deal with a contract for the London Marathon, and it's like, and you're going. And I'm going, well, where are you? You go, well, I'm actually on the bridge on the other side. I live on an island. I'm on the other side of your bridge. And it's 11:30 at night. And it's like, and so you come in. And I think I make you an omelette that night, and you leave at 3 o'clock in the morning. And we just talked and chatted. And I think it's those conversations. It's you introduced me to someone. We were in Vienna for the European Marathon Classics, and you introduced me to someone there, and just the conversations, they're just fascinating. It's like, I do read a lot. I read a lot of news, actually. I read a lot of current affairs. I read a lot of what people's opinions are. And I think it just helps you to test things and then have these conversations and just be curious. And that's how you then bring people together, and you try and get them to read things and just think about, what is going to help people to get inspired, what's going to help to get them to run, what's going to want them to do London Marathon events more than other events. How can we get them to come back? And we've got a duty to keep them running because it's good for them. So fundamentally what we're selling, I'm a brilliant salesperson if I believe in what I'm selling. If I don't believe in it, I'm absolutely terrible. And what we are selling is health, well-being, physical, mental, and everybody should be doing it.
No, 100%. I mean, we obviously weren't friends at the time, and I'm fully aware in retrospect the whole. I remember I will find the WhatsApp and put it out there at some point. I remember sharing my location. I was on the other side of the bridge. It was 11:30, saying I'm here. I'm not going anywhere until we get this contract done. And I think I would have stayed for at least a couple of days. I think if it had been there to get it done. But it was much nicer to come in a couple of hours, and it was a sort of special evening and start of obviously something really exciting.
My wife did wonder at 11:30 at night who the hell was at the front door.
Not known for my subtlety of being quiet either, so that probably wasn't going to have helped that either. But I think one incredible example of the innovation is the double, and when we sort of look at something like that, which again would have been kind of unimaginable for that to come together, I think is just going to blow so many people's mind when that announcement can come through. Can you talk about doing something like that, the level of how that process can even work, like the level of buy-in you have to have from people across the team, like just the level of like foresight and management to make something like 2 London marathons happen, like how an innovation that big and something which is going to have that big an impact on so many people, how does that happen?
I think it happens through little steps where and things that people do where they suddenly realize the boundaries of the possible are much greater than they ever imagined. So you can start saying something and people say that's never going to happen. And this comes to my heritage in terms of, for 9 years it was said it was physiologically impossible for a man to run under 4 minutes for a mile. Right? So that was back in, it's unbelievable to think that now, how many people have done it. But the first...
Not either of us.
No, nowhere close, nowhere close. You know, so for 9 years there were people trying to run, the Swedes, the Australians, the Americans, the British. There were sort of 4 different groups of training groups trying to do this. For 9 years, it's not going to happen, physiologically impossible. So Roger Bannister does it. 3 days later, John Landy does it. The moment one person has done it. Yeah. And I think that, you know, we, through COVID, which was unbelievable times for our industry, and you know, there's so many bits where I just remember we were putting on an event called The Big Half, then it was happening in March. I think it was the 1st of March in the Tower Hotel. It was Saturday night, the race was the next morning, and it was about 6:30 at night. And I got a text from someone saying the Paris half marathon with 40,000 people is just being called off at 12 hours notice. Yeah. All of a sudden it's like, okay, so I'd had loads of conversations. I'd been speaking to people in the mayor's office and lots of just what ifs. And all of a sudden, right, we need to, we're going to get, this whole thing's going to get shut down. We need to try and move the London Marathon. And we then made the announcement on the 13th of March. And we were ready to make it before then, and how helpful people were in terms of all the stakeholders, whether it was the boroughs, whether it was Transport for London, whether it was TfL, this Transport for London, whether it was the Mayor's Office, whether it was Canary Wharf. Everyone was just absolutely, yes, we will, you know, you tell us when you want it pretty well. You can have that date because of the good that it does. And I think then we couldn't put the London Marathon in terms of the mass event on, but in 6 weeks we still put the elite event on, and we we had St James's Park, and you know, we tested, you know, what we did with elite athletes. We tested them for COVID in their countries of origin when they left. We tested them when they arrived. We chartered our own private planes. We chartered a whole hotel. Everyone was tested every day. We had technology whereby you could tell how far apart people were, how many seconds they were, how close they were in essence, because if you were within 2 meters of someone, we had things that were incredibly accurate and people were wearing them. And I think that through that period, I think people suddenly start to think, oh wow, we're doing things and no one else is doing them. And you know, we got 37,500 people to run a virtual London Marathon, and that was on the BBC for 8.5 hours, and that went up for a BAFTA. I mean, it's like it's just the most ridiculous thing to say that the London Marathon was up for a BAFTA. So these things that happen, and I think it, you know. Just before that, we had helped Eliud Kipchoge. We were part of the operational team in helping Eliud Kipchoge run under 2 hours for a marathon. And that was the most unbelievable 9-month project, from getting a phone call from someone at Ineos and going, look, we want, who could run under 2 hours for a marathon? Where could it happen? Can you write this is on a Friday afternoon, can you write a paper by Monday? So I say, of course I can. And I picked the phone up to Spencer Barden, our head of elite athletes, and go, Spencer, can you do this?
Leadership.
But it also goes back to brilliant people. He is, in terms of the elite athletes, people always go, how do you have these incredible athletes, and how do you get them, and the relationship he has? So he wrote a paper, went back to Jim Radcliffe, and Eliud was signed on the dotted line. Yeah, we thought he was running Berlin. He wasn't. It turned out he hadn't signed the contract. He signed a contract on the 17th of February. So, you know, it was 31st of January. I think the paper was the 2nd of January. 2 weeks later, it was signed. And then we were going out and trying to find locations. I mean, we didn't end up finding. I still remember. I've got a picture on my phone. It was I was in Vienna. It was the 4th of June. It was 30-degree heat. Mark Milder had suggested I should go and look at this course. Race director from the Berlin Marathon. I should go and look at this course. And I went there, and I mean, so many different things. It was like,
call up Mark. This is mental.
it's you know, I mean, I'm there, and I'm being picked up by the Vienna City Marathon organisers. They're amazing. We're working with them now on European Marathon Classics, and Wolfgang was there, and I'm sort of saying, well, what do you think the mayor of Vienna would think about this? And he said, well, I don't know. Let me ring him and find out. And on speed dial, he had the mayor of Vienna, and I'm thinking, I can't do that. I can't get the mayor of London on speed dial. But I think, you know, and it was the craziest. You know, and I remember going there. It was 30-degree heat, and I got goosebumps because it was just looking at the course and going, you know, you had the trees over the top, you had lighting. It was 4 kilometres dead straight. I've never seen, there was no hill in it. Actually, the tarmac was quite bouncy. And it was, you know, Nike had to put it through all the algorithms. But I remember calling one of a mate of mine is the sort of vice president of, he's in charge of all the Alpha Flies and the next generation shoes. And I called him up and went, Tony, look, we found it. This is just amazing. But it just came out in goosebumps. But what we learnt in all of those things, you know, we were working with someone called Dave Brailsford, and he talks about marginal gains and, you know, how you do lots of little things, and it's these little things that lead to a big thing. And I think that, you know, that's how we imagine some of the big things, because we do them, you know, how do you eat an elephant? In bite-sized pieces. Just break it down, and you know, you have to work over time. These are not things that you can, you know, you have to do it with trust. You have to do it with, you know, people know that you're going to do the right thing because you've proven through the hard times that you can do the right thing. And you know, for all of the tests, whether it's Extinction Rebellion, whether it's the heat that we had last year, and it was the first time that we'd put ice stations out, you know, 18 different showers on the route. And why? Well, we learnt that from everything that went wrong in 2018. And, you know, I had to be on TV, and, you know, we had run out of water at certain places. On the London Marathon. Now, we had a contingency backup of 50,000 bottles of water. But that contingency had never been used. It wasn't the same water for 20 years. But I promise you we weren't giving people. But we had it in a truck. But it turned out that truck was too big to go through the tunnels that it needed to go to. So we had to unload that truck into small vans and start distributing it. But then there were too many runners on the course. So we had to send the truck into normal traffic. And then you're realizing that the normal traffic is not normal because of what we're doing in London. But you learn all these things. And I think that you have to, when things go wrong, you have to put your hand up and you have to go, I did this wrong. I will make sure it doesn't happen again. We will not make excuses, but we will say, this is what we did, this is the action, and this is what we will learn from it. And I think that's, you know, our debrief process at the marathon is, across our events, is hugely rigorous. And I am a bit of a geek. You know, we get 11,000 people giving us feedback on the London Marathon, 11,000 last year. I am sad enough that I do go through every single one of them, and I'm not looking.
You have so little else in your life, though. So it's
yes,
sort of,
I do. I've got the, but I just read the comments because they're incredible. The comments that people have bothered to put those comments down because they care so much about the event. So I have a duty, I think, to read them, and I do. And they're just these nuggets that you go, okay, that's what we need to do better, because, you know, every time you do an event, something is going to happen that you haven't expected. And you can try and then next year make it better, something else will crop up, and don't get too worried about what hasn't gone brilliantly. Worry about or celebrate what has gone brilliantly. So again, that's something that in life we tend to focus too much on the negative. My God, there's so many positive things. Focus on that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think there's sort of three big learnings there, which I've definitely witnessed all firsthand. Of confidence begets confidence, as far as you guys just keep making bigger bets, and that just then there is this feeling across the whole LME team. It's like, yeah, no, anything really is possible because we've proven that, and therefore we can just keep taking these bigger swings. And I think there's almost this sort of encouragement for everyone in that org to dream bigger, because we know we can do it. The trust point, I don't think we've ever experienced, in fact, we definitely haven't ever experienced an organizer who, after proving ourselves, you were like, right, I trust you, tell us what the data is, and I think we have this freedom to operate, which is incredible, and we've experienced that. And I know that there is that sort of trust pace in individuals to do, and then to learn and iterate quickly. I think we all make mistakes, we all get things wrong, and I think there is this massive solutions, not protectionist mindset across LME, of people saying right, this is what we're going to do better. I mean, two people I'd love to shout out there is Hamid and Sana across the communities team, who I think are brilliant at saying right, yeah, we didn't do this thing quite right. We're going to really engage with the community, listen to it, and get better. And I just know the level of respect that they have from all of the communities in and around London, all that Spencer has from across all those elite athletes is building that thing.
I just want to say Hamid and Sana are amazing, and the whole, in terms of what they've taught me. In terms of, there's nothing, just simply I can't change the privilege I came from.
Yeah.
But what I can do is use that to be positive, to make positive change, to be an ally, to take actions, to try and make life more equitable for people. Just even the difference between equity and equality. I think, with what we're trying to do at London Marathon events is activity and sport should be available to everybody, and in this country it isn't.
Yeah.
We are privileged enough to have come from to been to fee-paying schools, and in those fee-paying schools, sport you play every single day. In a state school, in a school that's paid for by the government, you are lucky if you are playing sport once a week, and that is wrong. The Olympic team is made up, the British Olympic team is made up of so many people that went to fee-paying schools. Yep. That's just wrong. It should be made up of society. And if there's ever a criticism I'd give of my father and John Disley on the London Marathon, is they never truly asked London if they wanted the London Marathon. They asked someone called Sir Horace Cutler.
I imagine he probably went to a fee-paying school.
I'm absolutely certain he went to a fee-paying school. He was the head of the GLC. It was called Greater London Council. And Sir Horace Cutler said, yes, you can have the streets of London as long as not a penny of public money ever comes your way.
Yeah.
So not a penny of public money has ever gone to putting on the London Marathon. I think that belief on democratizing activity, that comes from, again, my upbringing. I'm quite proud I've voted for Conservative, Labour and Liberal so far.
Never had any loyalty, have you? It's absolutely awful.
But it's about what is right at the right time. Yeah. It shouldn't be just, well, I'm doing it for one reason. And, I think you have to, what I really want the London Marathon to represent in the future, and what we're trying to do, is truly make it a journey with London. It's not a journey through London, it's a journey with London, with the communities. You are part of it, they are part of you. And this is the most brilliant city. I think it's the most brilliant city on the planet. Yes, there might be lots of things wrong with it, and you can either focus on what's wrong with it or celebrate the amazing cultural diversity that this city has. And, whether it's food, whether it's music, whether it's theatre, whether it's opera, Timothée Chalamet, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just such a fantastic city, and so it's such a privilege to be able to one day to be able to get 60,000 people running. So if we can get that on 2 days, why wouldn't you try and do it? Now there might be lots of reasons why the answer is no, but if you don't try, then you're never going to succeed. And so yeah, and one of my father's favourite phrases was a Browning phrase, thinks Thomas Browning, which is a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what is a heaven for?
Yeah, I love that.
And if you just don't go for something, we're not climbing, and it's we've got ropes in theory in terms of the business if we were, but we've got there are safety nets, and it's like, but if you don't try, you're never going to know, and you can worry about what might happen, or you can fully commit, and actually, I mean, it's one my youngest daughter, it's like talking again to my wife last night, like she's like suddenly. Like she's got this thing. It's like you've just got to totally commit. You're just either all in. Like people who aren't all in. Well, why aren't they all in? Just go in. And I think it's like that's what we try and do as a team is go all in. We will work together and commit ourselves to a goal. And the goal is to inspire more people to get active, to get healthy, because we love it.
Love it. I mean, I'm inspired, so that's awesome. We feel like there are these 3 phases that they should be thinking about. Phase 1, drive scarcity, get your big races to sell out and massively beyond sell out. Stage 2, diversifying revenue. We talk to race directors all of the time where 90-95% of their revenue is coming from registrations. We believe that you want to be seeing at least a third from registrations, a third from charities and partnerships, and a sort of third from your other streams that are coming through. And then phase 3 is sort of scaling your business. How are you thinking about internationally? How are you thinking about starting to take on new events, launching new pieces and that kind of stuff, which we go through? I've got some really tactical, you've obviously done this brilliantly across all 3 of those areas. I've got some really tactical questions across each of these. So 1, with scarcity, why is it valuable to be oversubscribed? Why is sellout just the beginning? And we hear from race directors, I'm kind of already sold out. Like, I don't necessarily know why I want to have all of these people that I'm going to say no to. Why is it valuable to be so oversubscribed?
I think human nature wants what we can't have to an extent. But it's not actually about, I think it's more to do with what are you trying to create? What we're trying to create is the most amazing experience. And we don't actually try and be oversubscribed. We just try and create the most amazing experience. How can you make people running 26.2 miles, which is a heck of a long way and is difficult, how can you make that experience so memorable? So what can you do with your course entertainment? What can you do with your charities? What can you do with your start line? What can you do with your finish line? What can you do with your training plans? What can you do with the engagement for 365 days? How can you celebrate that runner when they cross the finish line? How good can you make that medal? How good can you make that finisher t-shirt? So focus on how you make your event amazing. The fact that the outcome can be that more and more people want to come back to that race. You're not focusing on the outcome, you're focusing on what it is that is going to make your race amazing. And that would be my tip to people. The outcome is the outcome. Focus on making it amazing.
Love it. Having said that, I'm going to try and drive you down to the data, because you're also someone who is a bit of a geek, as you've said earlier, and we go down to the data. Within that point on scarcity, we always talk about really 5 core numbers: traffic, conversion rate, average order value, retention, and virality. You do a better job of capturing the traffic and the interest and the eyeballs. It's obviously a playbook that you play across all of the races that you bring in. We've been launching over the last 3 years of our partnership earlier and earlier to capture more of the traffic that's there. 95% of all traffic that exists around London Marathon happens within 3 days before and 3 days after the race. And yet for 85% of races, they're not open over race weekend. The reason we hear all the time is basically that they're focused on putting on the race and therefore they want to launch it after the race when they can be focused on that. How have you worked on making sure that you can be launching race weekend and both be putting on one of the greatest experiences that happens on the planet whilst also having the most oversubscribed lottery ballot? I mean, I'm comfortable sharing and we can always take this afterwards if you're not, but I mean, of the 1.15 million last year, we had 860,000 by the end of the marathon Sunday within those first couple of days. How do you do that, and what advice would you have for other event organisers in the value of doing it?
Well, this is an obvious question. I'm sure that you've teed me up for. You need to find a partner that can do that has the tech to enable you to do it. So it goes back to when I started. It was always, no, you can't open the London Marathon on the day of the event. So we would open it 8 days later. Well, as you said, it's like all your publicity is going to be just before, on the day, and maybe the day after. So why on earth not open it on the day of the event? It's absolutely crazy not to do it. And actually, we now open 2 days beforehand. So what you have to do, though, is find a partner that has the tech to enable you to do it. And that isn't easy. You'll have lots of people that will say they will do it. You are the only, let's do this, are the only company that have done it to the level that we're at, that we have been entirely comfortable doing it at that level. And it is no accident that that is what you're doing, because you know reputationally how big the London Marathon is, and therefore if you screw it up, then everyone's going to know about it, and your competitors are going to love it, because in human nature, we love failure. Now, I mean, it is incredibly successful. This is a partnership. We could not be popular without Let's Do This, without the tech that you have, without you then encouraging us to do other things. And what are we trying to do is it is incredible that you get, more than 50% of the people running the London Marathon have never run a marathon before. The number of people that have just gone to watch the London Marathon and have gone, those people look like me and I'm not particularly fit, therefore if they can run the marathon, I can run the marathon. And they then get inspired to do it. So we celebrate more someone going from inactive to active than we do from someone who is active to becoming incredibly fit. We just want to help people to get off the sofa, and Couch to 5K is one of the most brilliant apps to help, it is the couch. And at the end of a sort of 12-week program, you'd be running 5K. Then you can go into Park Run, which is the most brilliant thing to do. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, run do your park run, have your coffee, have your cake, have a chat with people, volunteer, be part of that community. Then maybe you'll start to do a race. There's this brilliant ecosystem that we have in this country. And you need to find a partner that has the tech, that understands what they need to deliver in terms of the infrastructure behind that tech, and you have absolutely smashed it out the park.
I mean, that's me in the company sense, not me in the personal sense, as all the engineers will tell you, but that's very kind on the company sense. Conversion rate is another really key bit. For a lot of organisers, we talk about A/B tests, and they wouldn't necessarily, that's not something that's been done in their industry before. They wouldn't do it in the past. Now we're in a situation where every year you're sort of chasing me for saying, oh, can we test this? Can we test this? Can we test this? Can we test this? How can you have, on the one hand, obviously from a very long time in the industry, a strong view for the customer, obviously the retail background, and you really understand which is there, but you also have a really strong view of the data, of saying like, okay, well, let's test it and let's see what works and let's see what happens. I won't say that you were wrong on an A/B test on the London Marathon this year, but I know that it would matter hugely to some others that I did. But how do you really try and engage and upskill and learn on the tech side so that you can start getting comfortable with concepts like A/B testing?
Curiosity. I think this goes back to that simple word. But I think it's still, I want to give amazing customer service. It's as simple as that. And so how can you actually just make it simple for people? And life is both simple and complicated. And we can make it simple or we can make it complicated. And actually the simpler we make it, the easier and the nicer it is. So that's a philosophy I have, and that's a philosophy I've had from Sweatshop, and you know, our staff were trained on biomechanics. They were trained to know every single technical piece of every running shoe, of every piece of clothing. But actually, if you went in, they wouldn't tell you that unless you specifically asked for it, because most people don't care. Their number one question would be, what's the best shoe for me? It's as simple as that. I just want to buy the best shoe. Or I might want to buy the fastest shoe. Or I want to buy the shoe that's most comfortable. What's the best shoe for me? They don't, but the staff would know all the stuff. And I think that, so what they were trying to do is just make sure that the customer got the best service that that customer wanted. So if they wanted to weigh the shoe, if they wanted to know whatever it is, that's what they would provide. And I think, you know, that my focus is very much on the customer, and I always try and put myself into the customer's shoes. If I'm going in for the first time, I mean, I'm brilliant at breaking tech because I'm not very good. So it's like, if I can do it and I'm a pretty good idiot, then it usually is going to work. So I just have that desire to make things easy for people, because it's complicated enough, the world. Let's make it simple when you're entering an event. Let's make it simple. What's the message that people need? If there's 10 things you need to know before a marathon, it's your start time. It's what time do you want to get up? What time do you want to eat? What time should you eat breakfast? What's going to happen at the finish line? What's the easiest way to get there? Don't overcomplicate it. Try and keep it as simple as possible.
Love it. Right. Diversifying revenue. So once we've got scarcity, once we've got sellout, once we've driven that, we really focus on, with organisers, around diversifying their revenue streams. Somewhere that, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, biggest single day fundraiser anywhere in the world that happens annually. For organisers that are really just scratching the surface of a charity programme, they're not at the sort of major scale. Obviously, we've spoken about Mark Milder, obviously not sort of like Berlin scale, but are really at that point where 90-95% of their revenue is coming from registrations, and they want to start trying to grow a charity programme. What's the best place for them to just get started?
I think it's probably find the right partner. And I would probably go and find one charity that they love. The charity, you know, my father died of pancreatic cancer. For me, it would be, pancreatic cancer.
Amazing. Raised 2.8 million for them last year.
They absolutely did. They were the London Marathon Charity of the Year. That is nothing to do with me. I do not choose, to be really clear, I do not choose the Charity of the Year. But I think that's what I would do, is go and find someone that they resonate with. And, I think that's probably you talk, briefly, you said about the fact with Athletic Ventures, we found Athletic Ventures with UK Athletics, Great Run, London Marathon events. And people will go, well, how on earth are you working with your biggest competitor? Well, firstly, Great Run do fantastic events. Paul Foster is a great business person. He's got some great...
And a great man.
He's a great man. He's got great people working for him. We get on. There are things that he's better at than me, and there's things that I'm better at than him. At least I think I am.
I think you go with that. We'll ask him, we'll check.
Exactly. But it's partnerships. It's find people who you can, going back to that teamwork, it's like, who are you going to have in your team? Who are you going to have as your partners? And if you have those same values, then you're going to do some amazing things. And Great Run, they are a for-profit company, whereas our job is to give our money to our charity. But all the same, we still want to raise revenue for... I want to do it for the charity, he needs to do it for his shareholders. But we both have a love of the sport. Our kids are similar ages. Our kids are trying to either run or high jump, and in one of his daughters high jumper, and get frustrated by the ridiculous system that athletic clubs are putting in to stop kids getting involved in athletics. So I think my tip to people would be find the right partner, work with that partner, and don't try and go too wide to start with.
Couldn't agree more. I think that's brilliant, super actionable advice. Then on phase 3, when it comes to global expansion, so there's a lot of event organisers looking maybe at investment. I think there's a generation of organisers that are also looking at sort of acquisitions and M&A side. When you've obviously probably been more active than anyone, I think, over the last couple of years as far as the races that have been bought or invested in, bought races like Brighton, like Loch Ness, more to announce, invested in races like Friday Night Lights, Maverick. What makes an event, how can an event organizer make themselves really attractive for investment? And what do you wish that people, say you're going to end up having a conversation with these people in a year's time, what do you wish that they were thinking about and working on now?
I think if you want to sell your business, you have to make that your goal. And you have to say, I want to sell my business and I want to do it in this time scale. And that time scale could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I think if you just go along and just go, I want to be an event organizer and I want to organize my event, you won't end up selling your business. Or if you do, you'll sell it for far less than you could have. So I think it really does depend on, you need to look at what your motivation is. You need to understand what you're trying to get to as an exit point. So go back to this plan. Have a plan for what you want to do. I think that you can even go, well, who in the market do I then want to sell it to? And why do I want to sell it to them? And what's my USP? What's my unique selling point? Why might my event be attractive to them? You might even have an initial conversation with them and go, actually, have you thought I might be looking to sell my event in 5 years' time? So I think be open, be really intentional. If that's what your goal is, and if your goal is just to organise an amazing event, carry on organising an amazing event. It's as simple as that.
Love it. Again, brilliantly actionable. 2-minute quick fire. So all of these, couple of sentences each. This first one's going to be harder because there's things. 2 most important things to grow your race and 1 to avoid.
Focus on what you're brilliant at. Focus on your unique selling point and deliver it amazingly. And I would say that's the number one thing, and then do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Make sure you understand the customer is king, and they are. They will vote with their feet and their wallets, and they will turn up or not turn up. The moment you get arrogant, the moment you just think, oh, doesn't matter, can get someone else, that's the moment your business at some stage is doomed. It doesn't mean it is in 1 year or 2 years, but in some stage it will, because they will vote elsewhere. So stay focused on the customer and really double down on what you're brilliant on would be the things that I would say you should do, the 2 things. The one thing that you shouldn't do, I think what I see too often is people have a brilliant race and then they think they can replicate it somewhere else. It often doesn't work. And I would tend to say, if you have a brilliant race, try and add shoulder events to it.
Yeah.
So don't think that you can just replicate it somewhere else. It's much easier to add an event to an existing event than it is to start all over again.
Love it. Favourite start line that you don't own or not invested in? You can't have any commercial relationship with this start line, but the favourite one that you're not involved in?
I think for history, it's Boston.
Yeah.
The Boston Marathon is an institution.
Oh, yeah.
It's an amazing city, and I just think you get on your bus, and it's an old school bus, American school bus, and you're driven out through woods to this small town, and 30,000 people have taken over this town of, 200 houses, and you're in the school, and then you're 26 miles outside Boston, and then you're going to head off, and you're going to run basically, and you're going to turn left at one street and turn right at Boston or something, and then you're going to be on the finish line. That's the madness, and you're following this railway line, and you go through these towns that get gradually bigger and bigger on the route, and I just think it's it's an institution. And we'll never be able to buy it because it's the Boston Marathon. It's owned by BAA.
And Jack would tell you to do one.
Exactly. So I think. Look, every race is amazing. I think for different reasons, and I think whether it's someone's start line, whether it's someone's halfway point, finish line, or whatever it is. There was an amazing relay in America called Hood to Coast. So it's Mount Hood and finish on the Oregon coast. And the beach that you finish on is just incredible. So anyway, I'll go with Boston.
Yeah, no, I love it. I had the privilege of life of getting to run around Boston with Jack a couple of months ago, and it was just heaven. And Dom, who's here sort of helping set this up, I watched him run that a couple of years ago, and I think it was the terrible opportunity for him. The first person he was hugging after the finish line. It was just I dream of got to qualify for that race at London this year. Worst race day experience, and what did you learn? So for one of your races, what was the absolute pits of despair, and what did you learn from it?
It's really hard because there's been difficult moments. I think a particular difficult one was a cycling event. Actually, it was called Ride London, it was it nearly broke London Marathon events. We had 22 staff, and we had 363 days to put on 4 brand new cycling events. So there was a 100-mile cycle, the biggest road closure in Britain outside wartime. We had a professional men's race. We had 8 miles of the centre of London closed. And we had a 4th one, which I can't even remember now. But all I remember through, we launched it in the Olympics. Boris Johnson launched it with us at the Olympics, and we had 363 days to organise it. And I got sponsors, and I remember going into pretty well every sponsor meeting and said, "This is what I told you last time. It's now all changed, and here's the new plan." And honestly, we were doing that for 6 months. And it's not brilliant, but my wife does remind me that 6 weeks before Ride London, the first Ride London, she was giving birth with Rosie, our second one, and I was, her contractions were every 8 minutes, and I would be there for the height of the contractions, and I would be doing emails for the other 6.5 minutes. She was reminding me of that, which is not my best moment. During the event, I found out that we had sent 120 cyclists into the Blackwall Tunnel. The first 120 cyclists into the Blackwall Tunnel. And they were pretty well into live traffic. It was just horrendous. But I did a very forensic investigation, and again, you have to put your hands up. What had gone wrong? And it was unbelievable. I think in the end, it was 18 decisions that had been made, and any one of those decisions has been made differently, the end result wouldn't have been that. But it's the Swiss cheese theory, where the holes lined up perfectly, and that was the end result. No one was injured. There were some really annoyed people. Someone's bike was damaged. The Strava feeds where they went through the Blackwall Tunnel and then we're going round and round in circles, going, where are we? Was part of the investigation. But I think people understood that, the depth and of what we looked at. So there are so many different occasions, but. You can either focus on that or focus actually on the joy, the celebration, and those days and those times are far better, and that's what I focus on, not the occasions where it doesn't go quite so well.
And I think there's a universality to that. All of our experiences of the fact that sort of like even someone in your situation achieve what you have with London Marathon, just touching so many millions of lives, can still have that experience, still go through it, is I think an amazing leveler for all of us. Hugh, thank you so much. This has been just such a dream and just such a joy to get to sit down. I know so many people will find this so helpful, so thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.